You only need to know me. I will be the one.
So I'm wondering if other devil fruits might have so-called real names, names erased from history, changed by the world government for reasons that we don't yet know about. The last panel of chapter 1037 has opened the floodgates in terms of speculations we can make about, for example, the true name of Luffy's devil fruit, an alternate name to the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but also that this concept of changing names, of changing devil fruit names, is problematic because we are told from a conversation between the Cypherpole agents that the names of some devil fruits are recorded in devil fruit reference books only because after you eat a devil fruit, you are somehow able to learn its true name, as if whatever essence or soul or devil that resides within the fruit is able to communicate its true nature to you. But I'm wondering if our interpretation of this is wrong. Hear me out. What Oda might be implying is these fruits are named based on what they can do. Another translation of these words being you can figure out the name of a fruit by the power it gives you. But the kind of power you get is completely up to chance. And so, fruits are named after you eat them. Maybe the fruit doesn't tell you its name. You simply name it based off the initial abilities your devil fruit displays. And so Luffy's devil fruit was given the name Gomu Gomu no Mi, the gum gum or rubber fruit, because it grants stretching powers, making whoever eats it a rubber or elastic human. And so, if the interpretation of a devil fruit somehow telepathically telling you its name is wrong, then we don't actually know the true names of any of these devil fruits. They have been named simply based off what their powers are. But there might be alternative powers to these devil fruits, and so would that not correlate to a different devil fruit name? Or maybe in general the fruits have ancient names that have been changed to erase their past. We'll get into some options shortly. But let's go back to chapter 1 and let's also go over the exact moment Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi and events that happened thereafter, because this idea is kind of crazy. If anyone recognizes some of the connections made, it's probably because I talk about some of this in my Final Gear Flame Emperor video and another video. But chapter 1 begins with Luffy looking ridiculous. The first character shown to us is a smiling boy. He looks so goofy with his big wide smile coupled with his determined expression, juxtaposed with a plea for the red-haired pirates to take him seriously, that he isn't joking, that the joke is immediately registered in this comedic moment. Luffy is like or acts like a monkey, his name being Monkey D. Luffy, his opponents such as Enel having even compared him to a monkey in the past. Always causing trouble. Even Oda said Luffy's supposed spirit animal would be a monkey if he were born an animal instead of a human, I guess. Fast forward to the altercation between the red-haired pirates and the bandits. In the middle of all of this, Luffy eats a devil fruit. Later on, as he tries to walk away from Shanks, his arm begins to stretch. Shanks somehow knows to associate Luffy's arm stretching with him having eaten a devil fruit, the only one they stole, specifically Lucky Roo stole. They are the ones that first call it the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Again, this is pre-recorded knowledge. Luffy didn't tell us the name of the devil fruit first. The red-haired pirates, Lucky Roo and Shanks, did. They knew its name and told its name to Luffy based on some knowledge they seem to have. Maybe from a devil fruit encyclopedia. That is what Lucky Roo is holding. It doesn't really look like one though. Luffy's devil fruit powers are further shown to us in chapter 2 as he uses it in front of Kobe. And Kobe later says to Luffy that he must have eaten the fruit of the gum gum tree, the rubber fruit, the Gomu Gomu no Mi. So he somehow knows about this fruit as well. We receive no explanation as to how or why Oda chose Kobe to say this other than Kobe observing Luffy fight, acknowledging his stretchy rubber power, and naming the fruit based on what it could do. So again, the name of this fruit being based on observation, not innate knowledge. But going back to chapter 1, just as chapter 1 begins with the smiling, goofy-looking Monkey D. Luffy, we see Luffy post-consumption of the Gomu Gomu no Mi with an even bigger smile. This might be the biggest smile Oda has drawn for Luffy in the story, and coincidentally, it's only this big after eating the Gomu Gomu no Mi. I'm not suggesting it's a byproduct of him doing so, only that Oda is drawing some sort of correlation, especially when we consider alternative interpretations or translations of what Luffy says next. He's asked why he's in such a good mood lately after eating that cursed devil fruit. Luffy says in the viz, "I'm glad I ate the gum gum devil fruit. Look what I can do." As he stretches his face, still wearing his big smile, and so his smile stretches too. In another translation, Luffy is depicted as saying this though, After eating the Gomu Gomu no Mi, I become even happier now, look. Happiness, joy, and so joy boy. Luffy perhaps eating a devil fruit that stretches not just his body but his face and smile, and so becoming a happier person. If only in the sense of his smile being so big, a contagious smile that spreads to others, and potentially then having eaten the devil fruit of Joy Boy. This is something I mentioned in other videos repeatedly now. Whether or not the Gomu Gomu no Mi actually did belong to Joy Boy or even the Sun God Nika remains to be seen, but we'll touch on the Sun God's powers shortly. But something I was going to tweet out but decided to turn to a video instead is, imagine if Luffy's devil fruit was the Smile fruit, or something along those lines. In a recent video I mentioned how Kaido's name is or has been theorized to have a hidden meaning in Japanese, his name also meaning Joy Boy or Strong Kid. We know from recent panels that maybe some thought Kaido would be the return of Joy Boy, but Kaido's path is starkly different. Joy Boy is the one who should bring joy, laughter, and some form of peace or freedom to the world. Kaido has only brought the world conflict and war, enslaving Wano's people. As a false Joy Boy, Kaido ironically has created artificial devil fruits called Smiles, and just maybe Luffy's devil fruit is the real thing, the real deal, not artificial, the actual smile fruit, the Gomu Gomu no Mi's true name. Now again, I don't know if this is the devil fruit the Gorosei are talking about at the end of chapter 1037, but it's possible Luffy's devil fruit, and others even, have ancient names that might be revealed later on in the story if it really is possible for the government to change the name of a devil fruit to erase it from history. But back to the Sun God. Who's Who told us prisoners or slaves would pray to someone known as the Sun God Nika for salvation. It was said the Sun God Nika would bring laughter to their lips and free them from their suffering. Many have connected the Sun God Nika to Joy Boy, believing the two are one and the same person. But they could be different people, that's also true. But looking at the image of the Sun God Nika as Who's Who speaks, the depiction of the Sun God Nika looks like Luffy, if only because of his rubbery body, his rubber limbs, the rubber legs and arms that appear to be stretching, waving around with sword and spear in hand. The straw hat is also thought by many to symbolize the sun, or at least the dawn and the rise of a new era. In an SBS, Oda has revealed what animal and flower each worst generation member represented. For Luffy it was a monkey and a sunflower, something that clearly brings mischief to the world, but also laughter and light to others. In an old video I asked, what if the Gomu Gomu no Mi had an ancient name that tied into Joy Boy, but it's worth asking if this name ties into the Sun God Nika as well. What if this fruit originally had another name, a more ancient name? I stumbled upon this while looking up the word Nika in Japanese in the past, a hypothetical alternative name for Luffy's devil fruit created by a fan of the series. The Nika Nika no Mi, a paramecia type devil fruit wherein Nika is the Japanese onomatopoeia for smiling with one's teeth, giving someone a wider smile. Again, chapter 1, Luffy right after eating his devil fruit is shown with a wide smile, smiling with his teeth, saying he's even happier now, look. Happiness, joy, Joy Boy. Even Arthur on Twitter had commented in the past on the reveal of the Sun God Nika that the name Nika, and you can see the kanji on the screen here, is one of the Japanese sound effects for laughter. And so we can add to this a smiling, laughing individual, the Nika Nika no Mi. But if the concept of naming fruits based on their powers is different than fruits having ancient names, again, maybe Luffy and others have different names for their devil fruits we don't yet know about. Luffy can also use fire, which is fitting for a sun god aside from the Lunarian theories that have popped up recently. Not sure how that ties into Luffy's devil fruit aside from him producing enough friction to create flames. Anyways, just to refresh a little more, Luffy ate a devil fruit the red-haired pirates stole from the world government. For a currently unclear reason, the fruit seemed to have been heavily valued by them, the world government that is, as evidenced by Who's Who being stationed to guard it, and being imprisoned for his failure to do so. Also consider this parallel I and others have touched upon, how much Luffy's devil fruit is supposedly worth. In Romance Dawn version 2, the Gomu Gomu no Mi was estimated by Luffy's grandfather to be worth 5 billion berries. This value is the same as the Ope Ope no Mi, Law's devil fruit, one estimated to be worth 5 billion berries. Law's devil fruit can switch souls and grant some version of immortality, eternal youth or eternal life. And so we know how important Law's fruit is, the Gorosei even alluding to their long lifespans in chapter 1037. Although that could be due to Joey Bonnie's devil fruit, or maybe these guys are just really old. But what about Luffy's devil fruit? Why is it so important it needed its own personal detail or security? Joy Boy or the Sun God wants having this fruit is one possibility. Someone also shared with me though a theory that ties into King of Lightning's video on this. The idea that maybe Luffy's fruit has a name connected to the concept of gigantification, that the government wants to create giants and maybe Luffy can use his powers to become one. I even saw someone say it's the giant Nomi, although I think that's a power better reserved for Sanwon Wolf. And I do admit though that Oda did say he only gave Luffy this power because he wanted him to have a goofy ability, but there's just no real way to know until we find out more from Oda's story. But to finish out the video, the other possibilities of awakened devil fruits and them having ancient, altered, or forgotten true names. In chapter 385, Rob Lucci says whatever power you gain, it depends on how you use it, and there could be a deeper meaning to this when it comes to awakening your fruit's true abilities. How you use the fruit determining its name after all. A few pages later from this same chapter, the Cypherpole agents eat their devil fruits and don't feel any real change. After eating the fruit, they don't know the name of it yet. Rob Lucci tells them to identify their powers as soon as they can, meaning you have to use them first before you know. So maybe awakening a devil fruit's true powers relates to its true name if the powers dramatically change, or differ from what they could originally do. For example, Kaku is first seen transforming against Zoro, although I'm sure he tried his powers out earlier in private maybe. He's identified by Jabra, who names his devil fruit without asking, the Ox Fruit Model Giraffe. Even Rob Lucci probably realized his fruit was the Leopard Nomi after transforming for the first time. Zoans are easy like that. Even Logia has naturally occurring elements, but Paramecia and mythical Zoans seem like they would be harder to name, to identify, and it'd be easy to change the names of those devil fruit types if you haven't tapped into their true abilities. Now this comes from the One Piece wiki. There's a devil fruit encyclopedia that lists the names and powers of all the devil fruits. However, only a few of them have illustrations, meaning that most devil fruits cannot be identified by their appearance alone. For example, the Gomu Gomu no Mi and the Yami Yami no Mi had pictures and could be recognized prior to consumption, whereas we just went over how the devil fruits eaten by those Cypherpole agents could only be identified by the abilities they granted. This would only imply that the information in the book is incomplete, and that there are still fruits out there with attributes that have yet to be documented. Maybe some devil fruits are newer than others. Maybe some are more ancient. One individual known to utilize this book is Blackbeard, who in his search for the Yami Yami no Mi memorized its shape from the illustration provided. The Vinsmoke family also has a copy of the encyclopedia, it seems, which Sanji read to become interested in the Suke Suke no Mi. The Gorosei discussing an awakening of a devil fruit and its true name has several possible outcomes, both in terms of what they are talking about in chapter 1037, as well as other occurrences of this name change in the future. Let's go over some of them. Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi is one possibility. The way that devil fruit behaves, it doesn't make any sense as a Logia, and it might also have unrevealed powers. Fruits being named depending on how you use them, what they do. I saw somewhere this fruit described as the most powerful or evil of all devil fruits, but that could be a mistranslation. A fruit that is so evil though that seems necessary to steal other devil fruits might have a different name if it awakened and was recognized by the Gorosei. Or maybe there is a fruit out there that is so old, even they don't know what it can do. Awakened devil fruits revealing their true nature in that sense. I thought about Law and Kid versus Big Mom even. Their awakenings. We don't know if Big Mom is awakened, but as the Gorosei discussed the War no Nigashima, they mentioned the awakening of a devil fruit, and I can't think of what other fruit outside of Luffy's that would draw scrutiny. Given the similar bounty on Luffy and Law's devil fruits, and the power of Law's fruit being very important, maybe they've received news that Law has awakened his fruit. Maybe the Gorosei even heard about Nico Robin's strange transformation against Black Maria, and that's what they're talking about. We also can't forget Otama's devil fruit, which has the power to control animals, which Oda created specifically for the arc of Wano, either because it's just Oda being Oda throwing into the story another crazy power, or because Otama and her power have some broader importance. Devil fruit powers usually say something about the character's personality as well. Think about Doflamingo and his string powers being able to manipulate others as he so often did. Maybe Otama having a devil fruit that could allow her to make others keep her company even if by force is related to her being an orphan, and that's all it really signifies. Or maybe it isn't a coincidence that Zunisha needs to be controlled and her powers might be able to do that outside of Momonosuke. But has her devil fruit awakened, or do the Gorosei mean her devil fruit power hasn't been seen in centuries? Maybe the original owner of her devil fruit gave Zunisha an order to walk the seas. One last possibility is the Gorosei learning of the scabbards and Momonosuke being sent into the future. The power of time travel belonging to Lady Toki, a figure from the distant past, from centuries ago. A devil fruit power the Gorosei describe as being nothing more than a legend now, even for them, not having awakened, or in another possible translation or interpretation, not having been used for centuries. And so we should focus then on the concept of usage rather than awakening. Maybe the power of time travel is Uranus. The conversation is kind of chaotic. It goes from the reverie to Wano's war and overlaps with communications between government agents over the approaching shadow that is identified as Zunisha, to make it seem like Zunisha has some connection to this ancient name, to this awakened devil fruit. And so some are wondering if Zunisha either ate or is someone or something that ate a devil fruit. Given the reactions of the Gorosei and the mention of an ancient name, I also thought about the ancient weapon Uranus. Could Uranus be a devil fruit? If so, could it awaken? Just like the powers of the ancient weapon Poseidon had to awaken. Devil fruits being items, things containing souls that reincarnate, just like Poseidon had to reincarnate. Just like Pluton is thought to be an actual ship, a thing that can be created and even copied in the future by Frankie with the blueprints, and so recreated, reincarnated. Could a devil fruit similarly do the same? Kaido's devil fruit is a mythical fish fruit. Is it really a fish though? Or is the awakening of that fruit, the awakening of a dragon, maybe linked to Momonosuke's power as well? Momonosuke being a copy of Kaido's devil fruit, Kaido being the blueprint akin to the original Pluton. Why can Momo control Zunisha? Is it the power of a dragon? Is the ancient weapon Uranus Momonosuke, or does it belong to anyone with that ability, with that devil fruit power? Kaido says the world doesn't need two dragons. I can imagine a future where the world doesn't need two Plutons, and so the world doesn't need two ancient weapons, might be what is implied here. Uranus also being the name of the Greek god of the sky. Dragons rule the sky after all. Poseidon as a mermaid and fishman is ruler, god of the sea. And beyond this, Shiki had mentioned Roger discovering an ancient weapon, and we still don't know what that egg on the ship was. What was inside of that egg, that is. A dragon or something else. The name of Kaido's fruit, though, is the fish fruit. Kaido seems to have gotten this after Rox Dizabek fell at God Valley, and this fruit is implied by Big Mom to have saved his life somehow. How did they know to call it the fish fruit? And also, why did Oda decide to not give Kaido a typical devil fruit introduction given how critical his character is? Why save it for an SBS or Viri card? Why did we not get a devil fruit reveal or a devil fruit box like we typically do within the story? Why have we only been given the model of Kaido's devil fruit, not the actual type, what it actually is? Why simply refer to it as that legendary model of the fish fruit? The power of a dragon so far yet to be revealed in the actual story. Is there possibly another explanation as to why it's so difficult for Kaido to die, aside from his ancient race, aside from the powers of a dragon? If Momonosuke's powers to control Zunisha are linked to his devil fruit, can Kaido affect other creatures too? Or does it depend on who eats it? Or does it depend on the voice of all things, a combination? Either way, it seems like Momonosuke or Luffy is responsible for Zunisha approaching Wano now. When it comes to increasing in size, Luffy's awakening might be able to turn other things into rubber outside of himself. Maybe he can stretch and inflate them as well, permanently, causing them to gigantify in size. Why does the world government want an army of giants? Think about it. I think this question is important. What are they trying to recreate, to create or fight against, that would require forces of that size? Is it to fight against the giant army of Elbaf or the Titanic-sized creatures associated with Poseidon, as well as what the other ancient weapons might be able to control? It's also interesting how Kaido, unlike Shanks or Blackbeard or Big Mom, has decided to mention the ancient weapons. The emperors don't seem to have mentioned them at all in the story, I think, outside of Kaido himself. There is a hint with Blackbeard saying he's going after something, but we don't know what. Kaido says to oppose the world government as they continue to grow arrogant. He has joined forces with Big Mom to acquire the ancient weapons, the greatest power in this world. So maybe we will get some idea of whether his devil fruit or Momonosuke's or Momo himself is the ancient weapon Uranus, or maybe Zunisha or something else related to Zunisha is with it, fast approaching Wano. Still, it's possible neither Kaido or Momonosuke is Uranus, But we need to start asking ourselves when the last two ancient weapons will reveal themselves, with the ending of One Piece being only a few years away. I also want to add that the ancient weapon Poseidon seems to be more than a weapon. It had the power to stop the ark or ship of Noah from falling. That massive ship being purposed to relocate the people of Fishman Island, and so think of Poseidon as being able to move Fishman Island. Do you think all the ancient weapons serve a purpose outside of the destruction they can cause? Not actually weapons, but like the name of this devil fruit, this ancient power, and other people who have been lied upon by the world government, erased from history in that way. Maybe the ancient weapons can all relocate islands or change the map of the One Piece world in some way. A giant ship like the Pluton could maybe do that if people were on it. But the Pluton is also said to be an island destroyer, destroying islands, also changing the world's map. So shouldn't Uranus have a similar ability? Destruction, but also relocation. Right now, we see how dragons have the power to relocate islands with their dragon clouds. Zunisha too is large enough to relocate the island of Zo. So I wonder what candidates there are for Uranus. I want to give a shout out to STB Buttsword. You can find his Twitter page here and give him a follow on Twitter at the link below to also see his theory on Pluton. I want to also acknowledge Joyboy Theories for being one of the first people to consider the possibility that Zunisha is connected to the ancient weapon Pluton, with Momonosuke maybe being the so-called steering wheel, the controller. But STB made a theory that suggests just maybe Zunisha ate a devil fruit and has awakened, and this might be or might indirectly relate to what the Gorosei are talking about, although there is some confusion over the direction Zunisha is walking, wherein the agents mention an island in the sky, the only island being Onigashima coincidentally. And so are they talking about a power that could lift an island, that of a dragon, or are they speaking about Zunisha when they mention it hasn't awakened in centuries? Although I guess the issue with Onigashima would be the golden lion Shiki can also levitate islands, and so I guess the power of dragons to do the same wouldn't make it Uranus. But let's get into STB's theory. He says the following pretty much word for word, and when we get to my own idea that I want to personally add, I'll let you know. Zunisha or Pluton, the ancient weapon that will destroy the Red Line. Okay, so first I'm going to assume that Pluton is a reference to Pluto since they are spelled similarly, and because one is referred as the midget planet and the other is the exact opposite in their world. In 2015, a dark red region was found by Japanese researchers on Pluto. It had the shape of a whale. Zo was also realized in 2015, so there is a possibility that Oda referenced the discovery of the shape on Pluto. The poneglyph that the Straw Hats found on Pluto was red. This is a cool coincidence, but what does the whale symbolize and why will Pluton destroy the Red Line, you might be asking? Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this theory. The first time we hear about Pluton is during Water 7. We also learn that Pluton was constructed in Water 7. Right after that, we meet Funk Freed, the first inanimated object, or being that has eaten a devil fruit. After it ate the fruit, Funk Freed became an elephant sword. And so STB says that he thinks that Oda is foreshadowing that before becoming an elephant, Zunisha was an inanimate object. Foreshadowing all that long ago, the revelation of Pluton, the ancient weapon, seems like a strange connection. The first time we see a whale in the story is during Alabasta Saga. There we meet Laboon. His sole purpose is to destroy the Red Line. Also during his flashback, we learn that a promise has been broken, a theme that may be related to Pluton during the Void Centuries flashback. Okay, so on to Pluto, or Pluton Zunisha. It is a ship that will destroy the Red Line, STB believes, and is somehow connected to a whale and a ship, a whale ship. Where have we seen that before? Marineford, the battle of the best. And so, Luffy will arrive, hypothetically, at the Final Wars battlefield with Pluton, on top of a whale, on top of an elephant maybe, and shock the whole world just like Whitebeard did. Now to add my own personal thoughts to this, whether Momonosuke is Uranus or Pluton, let's consider the following evidence I just pieced together. Pluton, also known as Hades, was the Greek god of the underworld. Recently we saw Zoro mention becoming the king of hell, a connection to mastering his blade Enma, whose name belongs to the king of the underworld. Enma having once belonged to Momonosuke's father Odin, and so Momo has a relationship there to the underworld. Perhaps the god of the underworld, Pluton. This might sound kind of crazy, I guess it's unlikely, but imagine if we were about to witness two ancient weapons, or at the very least meet another one. Uranus if a dragon, and Pluton if an elephant. There is an ancient rivalry between the elephant and the dragon that you should know about. Shout out to Flying Panda who mentioned this several years ago in one of his videos based on what he linked on Twitter. The dance of the elephant and the dragon represents the rivalry between India and China for so-called supremacy or dominance on the continent of Asia. Is it just a coincidence that a large elephant is fast approaching a large dragon right now? There's also that giant sword on Onigashima. Many thought Eustace Kid would use his magnetic powers to control it, but maybe not anymore. Connections have now been drawn to the sculpture of an elephant holding a sword in its trunk, a statue that is said to be the symbol of the city of Krabi, capital of the province of the same name in southern Thailand. Historically, Asian elephants were an integral part of warfare in Thailand. They would commonly be mounted or ridden by higher-ranking warriors like generals or royalty. This sounds like Momonosuke, whose power to control or command Zunisha is akin to mounting it, riding it, into battle. Maybe to help stop Onigashima from falling or to help fight the world government. Even if Zunisha isn't Pluton, or even if Momonosuke or Kaido are not Uranus, it's still an interesting comparison. But overall, there's another belief out there that if Pluton is revealed first, here in Wano, that Uranus, the final ancient weapon, should belong to or be in the hands of the world government to balance things out. We'll see. Maybe Blackbeard somehow gets his hands on it. Or maybe Luffy, if he is already allied with Poseidon and Pluton, or Poseidon and Uranus, is fated to get all the ancient weapons before the final war, unlike the past community speculation that the Straw Hats would have to fight against an ancient weapon in the end. Okay, I'm done for today. That's enough theorizing from me. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click that notification bell. As always, there is more to come. Until next time.